Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Not only a massive football game in College Station from Mike Elko, the Texas A&M Aggies, but I think just as importantly, a massive opportunity for Texas A&M to continue to gain that momentum on the recruiting trail. It takes us back to the conversations we had 12 months ago when Mike Elko was hired by Texas A&M. We had, kind of two talking points. One, the question of, can Mike Elko recruit at the level necessary to win at the highest level in the SEC? We've quickly gotten our answer to that. Texas A&M, their first class under Coach Mike Elko, top 7 class in the country, 22 commitments. I think the second thing we'd said was he's going to prioritize the line of scrimmage. And not only are we seeing that bear out on the football field, where the offensive line specifically was probably the biggest question mark we had for Texas A&M heading into 2024. I would argue that it's almost turned into a strength for Texas A&M, but you're seeing that reflected on the recruiting trail as well. Out of the 22 commitments Texas A&M has in the 2025 cycle, 11 of them are line of scrimmage players. Mike Elko will look to build on that number this weekend. Want to get into, again, it's a loaded visitor list specifically in 2026, but want to highlight some late 2025 targets that Texas A&M is going after that will be on campus. Now, before we get into it, as always, appreciate you guys, the Texas A&M fans. I always say it, ever since Mike Elko got hired by Texas A&M, it has been an absolute blast talking this program in the transfer portal, on the recruiting trail in 2024. The amount of support y'all continue to show, it's amazing. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And without further ado, let's get started, and let's talk about five-star offensive tackle Lamar Brown from the state of Texas. Now, he is committed to Missouri. If there is a team that can flip Lamar Brown, it starts with Texas A&M. Many of the Texas A&M fans who've been rocking with the boys going back to the summer know Lamar Brown, one of my favorite offensive tackle prospects in this class for a couple of different reasons, but I think it starts with this kid is probably the most physically imposing offensive tackle you see in the 2025 cycle. Now, I think there is some work to do in terms of the leverage which he plays with, a little bit of the footwork to clean up, which it probably makes sense when you're talking about a 6'7", 311-pound body. But man, the physicality, his ability to, overwhelm on the line of scrimmage with that physicality, that's something that, again, you can't teach it. You can't teach 6'6.5", 311 pounds. You can't teach the power that this kid has, not only in the hands, but also the lower body as well. He has skyrocketed up the rankings. Was sitting, when we first talked about him, was sitting around 100th nationally. Now he's listed as a 5-star, top 5 offensive tackle in the 2025 class. And again, this is where Mike Elko wants to build the line of scrimmage. We all know how difficult it is to find starting caliber offensive linemen in the transfer portal, specifically at that offensive tackle spot. You want to rack these guys up in the high school ranks. Lamar Brown is a guy you want to bet on every single day of the week. Now, the next one I want to talk about, and a player that we haven't talked about in relationship to Texas A&M, and quite frankly, I don't think we've talked about him much pertaining to any school, and that is 4-star wide receiver Terry Shelton, another really late riser in 2025. And you're seeing Texas A&M, kind of leave some spots open in the 2025 cycle and go after some of these late rising football players. Terry Shelton would be that kind of guy. He gets the T-Mac comps. He's obviously committed to Arizona. That kind of makes sense. And again, you look at Arizona not really going in the right direction in the 2024 cycle. 6'4", 200 pounds, track and field background, basketball background. The basketball background is extremely impressive. He's a 1,000-point scorer on the hardwood. You see the basketball background show up on the football field. When it is time to go up for some of those 50-50 balls, they ain't 50-50 balls with Terry Shelton. Like the body control, the ability to high point the football, how comfortable he is playing the football in the air. You can tell this kid's a hooper, and a pretty damn good hooper at that. Now, Terry Shelton, I understand the T-Mac comps. You're like 6'4", really, really big, long speed. A little bit of a linear athlete right now in terms of that's kind of where he excelled, and he's probably pigeonholed right now as just kind of that vertical wide receiver. There's flashes, especially on the senior film, of him, creating a little bit more separation and coming into being a little bit more of a well-balanced complete wide receiver. It is probably the best term in terms of, hey, I can do a lot more than just run really fast down the field and go make contested catches. Really commands the middle of the field well. When you get into the red zone, there's a lot of different ways you can utilize that kind of frame. And again, those kind of guys are big. Like when you get into the red zone and those throwing windows get condensed, you have guys that can go up and make plays and score touchdowns in the red zone. Terry Shelton's one of those guys. And at the end of the day, you guys hear me say this a lot. And this is what Mike Elko does on the recruiting trail. He's going to bet on physical traits. Like, hey, give me the really, really good athletes. We'll make them good football players. Terry Shelton is probably one of those examples. So I don't know if he's the 71st best player in the 2025 cycle, but he certainly has a chance to be one of the best players in the 2025 cycle, given some of that more physical development. Really interested to see if Texas A&M can turn it up. They wanted Jerome Miles pretty bad. Another kind of similar football player. Terry Shelton would be, if you're going to look for a pivot, Terry Shelton would be that pivot. Last one in the 2025 class I want to talk about, that's going to be, we're going to zoom in here a little bit. Jvin Hilson, 4-star edge rusher from the state of Florida. Again, another line of scrimmage player. Jvin Hilson, what I like most about him is he can win as a pass rusher going and attacking the outside shoulder. Has some nice burst off the line of scrimmage, but he is also really powerful with the hands. Like he knows how to go through tackles in the pass rush. He knows how to set the edge as an edge rusher against the run. That's something that, as much as we talk about these Texas A&M edge rushers, specifically guys like Nick Scored in terms of what they do rushing the passer, a lot of these guys for Texas A&M on the defensive line are also really, really good against the run. Now, this seems to be, he was previously committed to Alabama, then commits to Florida State, backed off his commitment. It sounds like it's between Texas A&M and Texas. This would be a really, really big target for Texas A&M. Last player I want to talk about, we're going to go to the 2026 class and talk about 5-star offensive lineman Lamar Brown. Why I wanted to highlight Lamar Brown? There's a ton of really, really big names in the 2026 class on campus this weekend for Texas A&M, specifically Lamar Brown. Y'all see what state he's from. Y'all know what team Texas A&M is playing this weekend. This, to me, from what you're kind of reading, LSU is the leader. Obviously, they don't let a lot of guys, especially the best players in the state of Louisiana, get out of the state. But I think more importantly, like if there's somebody that can bring him out of the state, it is probably going to be Texas A&M. This game feels like a really pivotal. I think I said that. I'm struggling with that word. Really important game for Lamar Brown in terms of he's looking at the two schools that he's probably most interested right now. They're going head to head at night in College Station. Again, these are the kind of games that, yeah, they matter a ton in terms of the 2024 season. This feels like a college football playoff game. These kind of games also can win you recruiting battles. I used the example a couple of weeks ago when Oregon and Ohio State played. Oregon hosted a ton of top targets, a couple of which were kind of between Oregon and Ohio State. Oregon wins that football game. They land a few commitments over the next couple of days. This kind of feels like a similar game. And if you're Texas A&M, like what better game day environment to bring all these top targets to than what you're going to see Saturday night? Like if you are a 17, 18-year-old kid and you're trying to decide where you want to go play your college football, experiencing a game like this, Kyle Field at night, blackout jerseys, I think this is going to be a game that is important for Texas A&M and these kids to experience what it is like playing football for Texas A&M. Really excited, not only for the football game, but to see if Texas A&M can get some heat up and get some momentum on the recruiting trail. We'll close it out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate y'all. Talk to you guys later.